few words before we're gonna start. Welcome to the sixth chapter of the Path of Listening, and today I have a guest that really influenced my life, even in the short time while I was recording that, and after that we stayed in touch, and I think you have a lot to earn and gain from Anna Twony. Not only in her way of listening, also like the the devotion she have for the spiritual process and the growth mindset she's demonstrating so well, and her level of connectivity, which was even in that podcast she was feeling or seeing or discovering so many things about me that I wasn't even aware of them before, in a way. The first question that I have is, tell me a little bit about yourself or why you're here in the world.
Well, my life changed dramatically in 1997. I would have thought that I was settled in where I was, and I'd got a career and a husband, a home, a horse, and pretty much lived the life that people are seeking to live in mainstream United Kingdom. Doesn't matter if it's the US or the United Kingdom. Little did I know at that point in time that a lot would change. But I guess I'm the type of individual that wouldn't facilitate that change unless it was dramatic. And so therefore I had a head-on car accident, and I found myself suffering from PTSD as a law enforcement officer. And my horse, who was a Palomino at the time, Carrie, and I got scolded for her speed and her desire, her expression, her willingness, all of it didn't comply with how the world would see horses. So all three paths led to a brand new way of being. And that meant that, in effect, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, I was being guided. I can't say that I was necessarily volunteering for that at the time, and it opened a brand new door and slammed another one behind me. I believe that that is following the call of the horse, and I know that it would be spirit guided. So therefore, I found myself on a quest. I didn't know that the quest was going to involve becoming a translator and a guide and a coach for the horses. I actually thought I was entering it to support people, to support victims and to support officers, and ultimately give a voice to the voiceless within the victims and even the officers. If I'd overthought it, which I overthink everything, that was the only path that I could see, because it all led to the same place. But that's not what happened. I ended up going to California, and within being in California, found myself at one of the most famous horse whisperers of our time. In those days, we called it pre-fame. And I was chosen to help bring the school forward and design a school in natural horsemanship. I was one of 5 or 6 women, along with an incredible man in a wheelchair called Crawford Hall, that opened this school. The only difference was that all the other women went back home, and I didn't have that opportunity. The opportunity of returning to a husband and a home and a career had come to an end. The door had shut firmly. I didn't have that chance. And so instead of looking to where I could go to, I turned to the horses. And I turned to the horses and threw myself into learning. Perhaps one of the reasons would have been that I wasn't a ranch kid and I didn't grow up privileged. I definitely didn't have a silver spoon in my mouth. And everything I've got, I've had to earn through blood, sweat, tears, and hard work. So I did exactly that. I threw myself into the horses to learn their language and sat and watched. And this really takes you on the journey of 25, 30 years ago to say the wild horses drew me home. I've studied wild horses from the West Coast to the East Coast and around the world, listening to their call as to where they would need the support to translate what it is they're saying and to show people that their language goes beyond movement. See, that movement that I had joined was all about body language. 1997 opened the doors up for so many to look at body language and to realize there was a nonverbal communication. What it didn't do, though, it didn't open the world up to telepathic talk, and it didn't open them up to energetic exchanges. And so when I watched the wild horses, you could see that they knew when another horse, like a bachelor, was coming, or they knew when there was a predator there. And you can go into science to say, were they downwind? But they weren't. And you could come back, arguably, and look at their vision that is so impeccable for multiple miles. But it wasn't about the vision, and it wasn't about the smell, and most likely not about the vibration within the ground. They would know the difference between predatorial and prey, and they could recognize anybody's intentions. So that opened a huge door for me to truly pioneer the language of the horse. And that became a very, very important path that I hadn't envisioned and put on a vision board or indeed manifested. It manifested itself. See, in order to make a change in the world and to help people help themselves and help them heal and help the horses heal, you truly have to understand your craft exceedingly well. And that comes through experience. I gathered 30 years of experience by traveling the world, looking at statements that had been told to me to say that it was a universal language, or that horses don't speak out loud other than 7%. The fact that it is only body language. And I decided to say, I'm keeping my mind open. There's so much more. And how do we learn that about them? And would what would the difference be when we know it? Well, it takes the guessing out of the game when people say, if only horses could talk. Well, they can. If only they could tell us what they're feeling. Well, they can. If only we could literally translate and help a human being with their problems. Well, we can. And I threw myself into the horse world ultimately because I had nothing else. Everything had been stripped from me. Everything from family and friends and finances, any security. I think you can relate to that. In your own way, you have that. So I definitely was not the willing servant of God. I was the one that was pushed. And he said, you will fly. And I probably questioned that way too much, way too much. So here I am, having started the nonprofit and been an immigrant in the United States, started from scratch without anything, and been on a hell of a spiritual journey. I'm not sure what else to tell you. I've made it my life's mission and my life's path to become a voice for the voiceless. I invested all of my time into rescue and sanctuary and wild horses, all of it, to make a business model around that, to say these are the horses that need the second chance and they need the voice and they need a true voice. And people don't listen at the best of times. But if they can see the evidence and the evidence based, the solutions and the results, and bring it back to nature, to close to nature as possible, and realize that we can take the pain out the horse, that the invisible pain of emotional mental stresses that lies within them on a cellular level, like it does with a human being. They too suffer from PTSD or lifelong emotions stuck in their bodies. And these are the ones that the humans can't see. They find it easier to see the lame horse or the one where the saddle doesn't fit or the teeth need doing, but they find it harder to see the one that is still grieving and the one that really doesn't understand what's happened to them, or the one that has a passion and a purpose and a path and isn't allowed to do it. And suddenly we see the horses as healers. And they go from being in the war and from helping in a therapeutic setting, if you will, or performance horsemanship and even farming. And you realize here stands the wisdom before you with the answers, but you'll only see what you want to see. If you want to see a four-legged horse that's livestock, then that's what you'll see. If you open your mind and your heart up to the possibility that there's so much more, then you can't unsee it.
I'm gathering a lot from your answer, like to be in a translation for the horses, to turning back to them, to sit and study. Um, and I still have a lot of questions about 30 years of experience with horses. Okay. What did you
Yes.
learn from that experience? Like what they are coming to teach us? Because you described a movement that was dealing with body language. And I don't know
Yes.
why and from what senses I'm picking that up, but in a way, I have a sense that the original source of that movement that started from Tom Durant and Ray Hunt and Monty Roberts was part of it, um, Pat Farrelly, but in a way, there was, I don't know if return of that movement, but kind of way of um, learning from those horses or the messages of wisdom they supposed to bring into us as humanity. And I'm curious what is your thought about it, and if you have any, what are the wisdom that the voiceless voice is showing up in front of you?
Well, if we go back to the 1997 movement, the doors opened, like you said, with those and many more. It's like all of them got together around a campfire and they knew each other from different cow activities, etc., and being cowboys to a degree. And they all created a marketing theme. Everybody came out in their own way, from 7 steps and 7 systems to the language of the horse, etc. If we look at that, it was a huge movement from tradition into natural horsemanship. And yet there's many principles that would come out of that, from work versus rest to discomfort versus comfort and pressure release, and ultimately the singular piece of body language, of reading the horses. But what came from it also was a dominating movement. All of it is dominance based. And they must have discovered when they looked at the horses that the dominant horse would move feet. But when you start to look at the passive force, didn't necessarily do that. And that's the piece. Like if you have a statement that gets told to you and you believe that statement, that becomes your paradigm. If somebody tells you that horses move their feet and whoever's feet is the leader, and that is not a wrong statement, it is a correct statement, and you can see it within any horse, domestic or wild, and you hold on to that and you believe that that's what it is you have to do to become a leader, then that's what your world will become about. But if you challenge everything, and not in a rude way, in a very respectful way, and you begin to percolate on these statements, and you begin to realize that, is that truly true? Is it truly true that there's only one horse out there in the wild and it's all dominant based? No, it's not. There's 9 passive leaders. And passive leadership comes from within. I wanted to prove to myself that you could create leaders. And I spent 30 years looking to create leaders. I created a ton of trainers for sure, and a number of instructors. And I've worked with more than 10,000 horses in this lifetime. So with that, you can change your paradigm. And you can begin to see that actually you don't have to be that way. It's already inside of you. And I tried to prove to myself that I could create leaders. I can't. I can create leadership within the person and bring it out, but you can't create a leader. They're either born that way or they're not. And you could go into nature versus nurture. And when you watch the wild horses, it's lineages, it's blood. They pass the blood down to their offspring, and that becomes the leader. That individual becomes the leader. And if they are strong inside, which a true leader is, they don't need to make their mark. They don't need to make somebody small in order for their light to shine. They look to bring up everybody's light, and they understand that a herd has a dynamic, and everybody together is important in that herd to create a full family. So therefore, for me, because I started in that movement and I was teaching it, and you got to remember that I taught the round penning, and I taught all of those things, and I'd say, back that horse up and get him out of your space until you question, to go, why is he out of your space? He wants to snuggle with you. There's not a better compliment. He wants to share breath. He wants to hug you. He wants to snuggle with you. He wants to find security in you. Fantastic. Let him do that. And if he's a bit cheeky, naughty, energetic, rude, well, let him be rude just a few feet away then. So therefore, what did they teach you? It's too easy. It's too easy to turn around and say they teach you patience, trust, respect, leadership. They teach you about yourself. You could go on and on and on. They teach you feel and timing and pressure and release. And they teach you about the pause. They teach you to show up and be authentic and aligned and balanced and patient. And the list goes on. But if we stop there, or if we're that shallow, and for some people that would be deep, then you miss that they teach you the truth about life, how to truly align. What does alignment even look like? Well, that would be in the flow, the spiritual flow. Because there's some beliefs that we have the left and the right brain, right? And science will state there's the people that are logic and there's the people that are creative. And the truth is you can live between both of those sides. You can be logical and creative and receive the guidance from your intuition, spirit, creator, universe. You can have it all. You have to find the flow. Some horses don't have that flow either. They can be living in the past. And that's my biggest thing that I've been jumping on in the last year, when people say that horses are truly in the present moment. Really? So why does the horse back up or move his head fast and flinch when you go to pet him, when your intention, your movement, and your energy is actually one of petting, but he is shit scared? Well, because he's not reading the moment. He's reading the past to say, I've been hurt, I've been abused. He's not reading the moment, because if he was reading the moment, he knows he would be petted. So then you realize they don't live in the moment. So now we get deeper and deeper to come. There's no difference between a horse and a human being. There really is not. They need roles and purposes, and they can read energy, and they can connect telepathically if they're in alignment with the flow of energy. But if they're not, and they've been pulled off of their land, or they've lost their babies and they've lost their loved one, they may not be able to connect on that level either. So suddenly we realize that they're the source. They're the source to spirit. They're the source for that magical moment to look into their eyes and realize there's so much more depth. They're the ones that can bring you back to your true self. They're the ones that can show you what inner peace can feel like. Yes, they're going to teach you riding and good horsemanship. It's not about that. They can teach you to be authentic. And authenticity isn't simply about a belief system necessarily, but it is about aligning your thought patterns along with the spiritual. So you've got to figure out your physical movements have to match your thought patterns, and your energy has to match all of that. And you put these three languages together, and then you realize what alignment is, which is honesty and truth, and true to yourself. No longer are they livestock or simply horses or beings, but they become your spiritual advisor, the wisdom keepers, and everything changes.
Absolutely. I have a question for the skeptics. I was a skeptic before my near-death experience, but like if you have any examples of communication that came back from horses and there was a like an accurate response in the reality that could not be without an animal really communication. Um, and more about those stories, what are the way of even practicing it or testing it? Because I do familiar with a lot of people that when I'm observing that they're doing something that look like animal communication, could not be explained by body language, but yet they're not doing it in a language way because they
In a
did the
spoken language way.
experiment.
Yeah, because it goes beyond the spoken language. And often individuals will say, if only horses could speak, but we all speak different verbal languages. They do speak. So while I'm speaking English currently and I only speak two languages, I'm sure you speak more, you had to learn those languages. And you even have to learn your mouth movements for the expression to be able to do that. And when you, honestly, when you start to look at the Danes or the Germans or the British or the French or the Spanish, etc., everybody has a different function in their movement. And so the horses have the spoken one. They'll have the whinnies and the nickers and the calls and so on. So they do have the spoken one, and one could learn that, right? So there's the spoken. And then there's the non-verbal language that gets lost in our world today. And yet, 93% of all communication is non-verbal for a human. And the same probably applies for the horses to go 93% is non-verbal. But we could put in there the energetic piece to go, we understand what it feels like when we feel welcome. We understand what it's like when somebody's listening and they're listening to hear and not listening to answer. We can sense that and we can see it. And some people don't care and some people don't want to listen, and so it is. But why tell stories if somebody doesn't want to listen? Because it's not a two-way conversation then. And the same applies with the horses. You can either talk, well, let's go with body language for a moment. You can talk at them where you ask them questions and you expect their response alone, or you can talk with them, which is to create the space for them to respond in. Now, that is your body language piece, right? We've got our own body language awareness and we're looking at theirs. So when it comes to the telepathy piece, this is a language that actually transcends beyond a timeline and beyond a distance. So you can talk to animals, the county, across the country, different continents. And it's so interesting when people say they're skeptics, because many of them will respond as open-minded skeptics, and they're not. They're closed-minded and they don't know. And yet, at the same time, when you start to get the evidence base, and that's what I'm about. If you're into the light-hearted, well, your horse loves you, or your, let's say, dog, your dog loves you. Every dog loves their person, usually speaking. So it's very generic information. But when you come to get conclusive information, that changes everything. And so there's a number of parts to this to go. You've got to learn this language of love is what it is. It's not about being in your head, it's about dropping into your heart. If you're in your head, you've got all these thoughts that will go back and forth, and that would include the memory. It includes the Google downloads, because your mind always wants to solve problems. And so if you put a question to your mind, it will always find an answer. So this is a language based in heart. And so that would be the source that one has to drop into. And within that language, now you get into sensing or seeing or hearing or knowing, and that is your language. Now, when we get to this piece, for example, if a person is looking to find out why a horse bucked, Let's stick to one scenario. And it might be this horse is in danger because he's bucked somebody off and they got seriously hurt. Let's discover the cause. What helps is being a horsewoman, because being a horsewoman, at least I could pose the questions correctly. People would question this for themselves to say, couldn't you simply ask, why did you buck? Absolutely, you can. But I could also ask an individual, why did you have an affair? And they might have had multiple affairs. So how do we know the answer? Like, did you have an affair because you were unhappy in your marriage? Of course. Did you have an affair because it was convenient? You were drunk, you were out on the town, you're in a different city. There could be 50 reasons why somebody had an affair. And if you only pose that one question and you get one answer, you don't even know if that covers the gamut. I'm giving that as an example, and it's a dramatic one and bold one, because the same would apply with the horse. If you just asked him, how do we know that we've covered all the reasons? He could come back with, I buck because I was feeling fresh on that day. But what if there's other reasons? And so it helps being a horse whisperer to put in there, one, keep an open question, why did you? But then we can explore, what are your living arrangements? You know, what do you get to eat? Who's riding you? What's the competency of this rider? Does your saddle fit? Does your bit fit? Do you feel comfortable within your body? Are you in pain? And suddenly this one question of why are you bucking becomes 15 questions. When you get those answers back to say things like, his hooves are perfect. He had his teeth checked just a month ago. The bit that he has in his mouth is a snaffle bit. The saddle actually fits and it's an English saddle. And the rider he sees as a competent trainer. And you suddenly add in evidence. Now the fluke of the answer no longer becomes a fluke, but instead it becomes truth. There's a part called remote viewing. And if you can remote view, see, meaning see it in your mind's eye, and you can begin to describe it, and now the delivery becomes of utmost importance to be able to describe it well. So, for example, to say, I can see a post and rail fencing. Perhaps the paddock is about 10 acres in size or thereabouts, and they have plenty of food to eat. There's 3 horses in the herd, and they live outside. And you start to give this detail. Now, so for some, that becomes undisputed. For others, even with this amount of detail, they don't want to believe it, because now you're challenging their horsemanship, you're challenging their life work, you're challenging their belief system, their spiritual belief system, even their religion and their mindset. You're challenging everything. So therefore, not everybody can be ready to hear it. Imagine a world where we actually asked every horse, how do they feel about the trainer? Do you think the trainer would want to know? I do. I want to know what the horses think about my training. Do you?
When I was in the farm in Arizona, there was an animal communicator that came, and I was walking with the horses daily and massaging them and doing like truly the best job that I can. Working under the supervision of the massage therapist, working under the supervision of the classical dressage trainer, and I was a little bit afraid to know. So I completely understand those people that will say, I'm not sure I want to know the answer.
And
And
that's the thing, right? And then there's many things that come with it, which would be, where's your moral compass? Where does your moral compass land? Because if people want to back a horse up a whole arena length, or put a severe bit in, or not worry about the saddle fit, or have them cooped up 23 hours a day and bring them out and they're basically prisoners in the stall, there will be some horses that love being in stalls and it's like a hotel. And then there's others that hate being in there. Yeah, we have to have an open mind to go, are you doing it from a place of ego? Like, are you competing because you want the medal? Or are you competing because you have a true partner that has the same desire to learn this art and this craft? And is there a better way? I actually did a consult yesterday, and I do a lot of consults, right? So I did one with a Mustang yesterday, and she had jumped out of the new area. She's just arrived to this new place. She's she's touched, but she's never had a halter on. She's a bay mare, and she's found her soulmate in this guardian. And so everybody's happy that she's arrived home, and she's got a picture of you. And the next day, she's found outside of the fence. Now, as a horsewoman, I would tell you fences are only suggestions. Every horse can pretty much jump out. It's all it is a suggestion. And depending on where we are in the United States, some of them are post and rail and they're like toothpicks. Other ones will be barbed wire. Other ones are really strong fences. You know this, and you can pop the white ones out. It just takes a little pressure and they pop out and so on. So we've got all these fences. But it would be easy to say, she's a wild horse. It's only a suggestion. And yet, when I connected with her, she showed it to be differently. And she showed, I'd like to have company. I'm this side on my own. And I thought when I arrived here, I'd have company. So she stood right by the fence where the other horses were. You could also say, as a wild horse, would she not run away? And she'd be difficult to catch. No, I could tell you from sitting at home to go, oh my gosh, you showed up as the guardian. And although you couldn't put a halter on, she walked right back in with you. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. So if we went off of horsemanship alone, we'd start to look at it to say we'd have to herd her in or find some panels to help her, make sure this is a 6-foot fence, blah, blah, blah. We didn't need any of that. We didn't need one thing. She walked right back in. You didn't need to bribe her with food, etc. It was a matter of, let's bring you home. And it's not always going to be like this. You're going to get the company. So therefore, the answers that we would make up as experienced horse people don't always apply. And the more we get stuck in what we believe we know, or we get stuck in the ego, and we don't have the open mind, then there will be no space for the learning. And there will be no realization about it. People can get stuck on the science alone. But what is science anyway? What's it? Research that's been put into a paper? Well, what if we put the research of 10,000 animals into papers? Would that then be accepted more than without the paper? Because this is what's happening. They're talking on a vibrational frequency, and the frequency is in the hertz of love. So the frequency, hertz meaning Hertz, I think it's that hertz. And so therefore, it shows us where we're vibrating at. Like every word has a vibrational frequency. Every color does, actually, materials do, land does. So why would this be no different? This is a language that everybody has the birthright and ability to access if they put the time into it. And some will be gifted, meaning I think they're just waiting for that divine time. And then there's a big thank you that the animals go, whew, I can have a sigh of relief. You've reached your calling. You've welcomed your calling. And then others will have to work hard at it. So what brought you to the animal communication? It didn't escape me that you said a near-death experience.
I was, first of all, in a way, I'm not sure I'm fully opened up to that yet. But I do think I'm getting yeses and nos. I can go to the arena and feel that that horse don't want to walk today, and to leave him aside, or I'm very empath, so I can feel their pain.
Yeah.
So in a lot of barns that I work in, could not stay if horses are suffering over there even a little bit. And sometimes it was hard for me to even to keep my job, because I will say that, let's say, the level of horses shrink in Israel, okay, is not that high. I'm not sure
Yeah.
here also, but um, so in a lot of farms you will see lame horses and you will have to work with it. I cannot. I feel it on my body automatically, and I cannot operate it with it. So what opened me up to channeling, I was stuck in the other side in a river in Costa Rica, naked, not sure if I'm coming back or not. Um, and since then, I'm hearing voices. Okay. Um, but that's more of a spiritual connection. And after that, when I was in Arizona in the workshop, I saw her pulling up so much detailed information about a cow that it was a male cow that asked to write a thank you note to the person who rescued him. And then
Yeah, gratitude.
the pain of every horses in the barn, but she did it in 1 hour, and I was treating them daily for 2 months. And she knows more about the vets on them. I asked for the vet's report on all of them and asked the vet what is their current situation. They know less than her in hour. She was able to say everything. And she said, you have a special connection with this horse. My body language didn't said anything about it. She looked at him and said, he like you. You ride on him? Like, so in a way, I think I have that way of communicating, but and it's a weird question because I'm gonna say it like this. I have more time around horses than I have time meditating or gathering other sources of knowledge. And in a way, it's less open for me, or at least in words, it's less open for me than the other way of gathering spiritual guidance or wisdom.
Yeah.
Um, but I do have, like you said, the experience of 10,000 horses.
You
And
do?
I
That's
have a question
wonderful.
about what they want us to know. Like,
I don't know if I would want to generalize, honestly. It's that piece to say, are they seeking for you to be on a one unique pioneering journey? Clearly they are. You've had thousands of horses that you've been around. You had a near death experience, so you can see how thin that veil is with spirit. You walk in and you feel them in your body. So you're meant to be their translator. You're meant to be. You're on a unique path in the United States, and I'm not sure where it would take you. And you're following the guidance. You're following the call of the horse, and you're following the guidance. And it's unique to you with all that you've been through. And it's powerful. And usually there can be a bit of a struggle and a challenge and trouble along the journey. And that's the spiritual growth. So are the horses telling you you are their guide? Are they telling you you're improving your horsemanship and getting gentler and gentler? Or are they telling you to have a strong voice for others? And are they teaching you about spirituality? Are they humbling you? There's so much, right, to look at just a person like you to say the small picture, they're teaching you everything that I listed before. That's the small picture. And the big picture, they're teaching us why we're truly here. And I think that's what it is for the majority, is to go, why are we here? What is this about? And they teach us that. They teach us because they're connecting you to spirit. They're opening up channels that you wouldn't have had access to perhaps in any other way. And so therefore, yeah, we're here to help them. I've no doubt about that, because the wild horses are being managed into extinction. And so therefore we are here to help them. And at the same time, are they not here to help us because electronics and robots and AI is taking over, and people are forgetting. They're forgetting where they came from. They're forgetting who they are. They're forgetting to connect with nature, and they bring us back firmly into nature. But with that, for me, when we get into the coaching aspect, there's 5 parts for me. There's the coach, to be an authentic coach, to be able to support. There's, of course, the student that shows up. There's the elements. So that means the wind and the rain and the sun and the earth and so on. There's the horse, and then there's spirit. I don't think one is more important than the other. The student has to show up openly, but without the coach there, not always does the change come, or not always is the guidance understood. The horse sometimes needs a translator to be able to have that. And here's an opportunity for us to translate and for spirit to come through. So therefore, I look at all of that too, to go, they're a piece in the puzzle. They're a big piece in the puzzle. And there is no species that could even begin to be the same as a horse, because they reflect back to us what no other species can do. There's not one other comparable. We could come back with individuals like dolphins that represent the play and the fun and the freedom. They're not going to reflect back like a horse. And when we start to look at equine versus canine therapy, the canine is loyal to a fault. They're going to show up loyal. The horse doesn't. The horse won't show up loyal. He's going to be real. And so therefore, there's nobody on the planet that can teach us more about authenticity. Perhaps I gave you a long answer. For me, it's both of it, of why are we here and how to become authentic, reconnect to spirit. These are the large pieces that the horses are teaching us.
I have a question about the variety of purposes that horses have, like in the individual level. You spoke about what is our purpose, so what is our destiny in general, and what is the horse's purpose and destiny in general. But I'm curious if there is, I can even say that I'm feeling that in the personal level, that each horse has affected me differently in my life, in the lessons that I have to learn. But if you have an examples of horses that are describing their destiny, and
The horse is describing their destiny.
for example, there is model of people that is what is my essence, what is my message, what is my mission, or what is my pain. If you have any examples of horses that have different,
Missions.
yes, different purpose in a way, or different missions.
Absolutely. Let me give you mine, my horse Excalibur. He is a Spanish Mustang, and I met him when he was 9 months old the second time around. And so he's now 19. And Excalibur's, let's go 2 ways. I like to put pillars in here, Omar. It's really important for me, because I look at it to go, and when you understand what he's done in his life, then it will make sense. So practically speaking, Excalibur has gone into 44 countries with DVDs and books. And practically speaking, he's been at expos and shown individuals natural horsemanship. Now, if we go a different road with it, he's taught thousands of people how to connect and communicate on an animal communication level. Thousands. And he's taught equally the amount of people about reincarnation. So much so that he's put me in situations where I wanted to do very basic animal communication of what's the area look like and who is he and what does he want to tell you physically. And he will always do animal communication with reincarnation. And then I have to find the words. I have to be able to tell the audience, and I have to bring it across in a way that it's digestible for everybody. He's done that too. If I look at my life path, I was recognized by the United States government as the top 5% in my field in natural horsemanship. That's a huge honor. And I put that accolade in because it allows people to hear it, to go, this is who's speaking. I've been to China, Mongolia, Morocco, a lot of Europe, the United States, in search of the whisper, Australia, New Zealand, you name it. And yet, when I finished being the top, and then I went to Gentle Mustangs for a couple of years, full time, in comes Excalibur and lets me know that everything I know is not enough. Imagine that. You think you're good. You might even be able to relate to it. You come out going, I'm good at what I do. I've been recognized. I'm great at what I do. And I've taught thousands of students. And Excalibur comes back with, I'm not sure I like any of it. It is boring. It's beginner. It's firm. I rode him bitless for 14 years. I can't anymore. I put a bit in his mouth now because at 19, he's the strongest and most opinionated he's ever been. And so for us to talk, we need to talk that way for my safety, so I can have some opinions. But imagine that he created an evolution in horsemanship. He brought forward telepathy. He brought forward intuitive riding, riding with the mind. He is pioneering with me. So a little Mustang has such a big mission that he has taught life coaching with 5 elements, the 5 I talked about, and brought a whole new kind of life coaching forward. There's a passion, there's a purpose, there's an unwavering dedication from this horse to do that. There's one example. Not every horse has that mission. I have another one here on the property. We have 27 horses currently calling Whispering Feather Farm home. And her name is Goldie. And she was 8 when she came to us. She'd been bred 5 times back to back by a veterinarian and then sent to slaughter in a feedlot pregnant with her baby. She was rescued sight unseen by a Good Samaritan, and her baby was born, and they now live with us. Her baby is now 10, and so Goldie lives for her child. If her daughter goes out for riding or training, she's watching her. When she comes back, she whinnies, she nickers, she wants to be with her. She protects her from other horses. She loves to eat with her, shelter with her, etc. Her mission is to release the pain that a human did to her. That's it. We made the promise that she's going to live with her child forever, and we wouldn't take her child from her. That's a promise. And so therefore I watch her, and I hope one day she'll be so confident that she's let go and her body will release it. She's created disease within her body, blown out stifle, blown out heart, arthritis. She's created the disease because she holds on to all the things that have happened to her. Goldie's a victim that life happens to her. Excalibur is a free gatekeeper that he influences life. And there's another life lesson to go. Does life happen to you, or are you the creator of your life? Do you manifest the drama, or are you living your best version of your life? Do you hold on to the story and live in it, or do you release the story and go with flow? 2 different horses doing 2 very different pieces, both with life missions.
My next question is about uh, one side of your work is related to healing. And I'm curious about what is necessary for people to practice or to experience, to be better with listening to horse's body or pain, because in a way, part of, like, I can see usually when horses are in pain, or like the light can switch off, and then no one to talk to, and they're stuck to communicate. So I'm asking what people need to do as a practice or as a way of working with resources to be more conscious about their body, their pain, their...
There's so many ways to answer this. Because if we're looking at consciousness of pain and we're looking at practicality, which you didn't necessarily ask me, then we're looking at studying, right? Studying the chiropractic and the massage and the energy healing, cranial sacral, laser treatments, veterinary care, homeopathy, and we're studying. And that's a practicality that I think is very, very worthwhile as we live here. And perhaps some of the listeners believe in the fact that we are spiritual beings and we're having human experiences. I think that's important. So therefore, we're learning the ways of how to survive and how to be here, how to be successful. And successful could be finding your authentic self. Doesn't necessarily get represented in monetary terms, but more in happiness and peace and alignment. So when we look at that piece and we come away from studying in the sense of finding pain, I found a lot of answers within the pause in general. So to be able to stop and pause before you go through the paddock gate or the stall gate, the pause to leave things behind, the pause to get into the breath work, the pause to get solidly into your body, pause to forget and release what no longer serves you in order to be able to be fully present. Now, within that, when we're working with a horse, for example, that pause is so meaningful. It's within the pause that we can feel their intention. We can feel what they're thinking within that pause. And we also create a space for them to speak, not just answer our questions, because often we're just drumming in questions of, could you stop? Could you come? Could you stand? Could you do this? It's all questions. And good horses are defined as compliant horses, instead of realizing that every horse is good. Every horse is good. So therefore, the pause is significant. And it gets even bigger than that for everybody to start learning this language, because it's when we follow our breath and we get quiet that we can hear them and feel them and sense them. And there's not just one way. While the majority of people see pictures or they see movies, there'll be individuals like yourself that feel it in your body. There's others that could hear sounds and words. And there's others that have automatic movement. There is not one way. They're all umbrellaed in with the language of love, and yet they're all unique languages. And it does take a little bit to master, honestly, because you've got to identify it. You spoke of feeling in your body. You have to identify, is that a past or present pain? You're identifying, what does it relate to? Like, does your knee truly represent a stifle, or does it represent a hock? You have to learn your language of pain and discomfort and emotions, and you've got to learn the language to define it with, so it's correct. That's the same for everybody else. Walk amongst the horses, sit with the horses, be with the horses, create the pause. All of that opens the door to hearing them. Not doing. It really isn't a doing task. It's about being amongst them. I love watching them. I love sitting with wild horses and watching them. But that is behavior, unless you look beyond the behavior, and you shut your eyes and you feel them. Can you even feel the wild horses when they're in harmony? Have they pulled their energy field so close to them that you don't feel them? Or have they blanketed 5 miles away? It becomes an interesting piece to say, I want to blend my energy with them. There's so much one can practice, Omar. So much. If you're interested in it, the horses are waiting, and I've never met a more patient species than the horse that could wait 25 years for their guardian to listen. And then they are usually filled with gratitude. They're filled with gratitude that suddenly they are being seen for the true being that they are.
Do you feel that they are changing physically? Like, I only have my 5 days workshop experience, but I can see something changing them when they have a way to communicate. There was
Yeah.
one mare that she was like, in a way, she was a little bit with back pain, but suddenly when someone was listening to her, she was the star of the farm. After five
That's
days of listening, now she doing only every time that they're doing sound work healing around horses, she does that job and she's the happiest mare in the world.
Isn't it beautiful? And that's where we realize they're no different to us. Every human being wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be seen. I'm not talking about the scene of they need to be heard because they tell their story and they're the squeaky wheel. I'm on about people like to be seen. When you find a partner, you want your partner to truly see you. And so, therefore, when you begin to use these methodologies, i.e., listening, then the horses change. It actually, I brought you in a few times, but it's no different to you. If you come to a country with a foreign language and you're only picking up a few words and you're coming to your own conclusions with those words, and they may be right, they may be wrong, and then an individual shows up that speaks your language, oh my gosh, I'm sure you open up. You're so excited to see them and you can be yourself, and suddenly your humor comes in and you find commonalities. I've been there. I've been there. And you wake up. You wake up because you're being seen and you have a friend. And that's what's happening with the horses. They wake up and go, "Oh my gosh, you see me. Now I can be myself." And especially with the troubled ones, right? With the troubled ones that people label and they'll call them names. And so you look at that to go, that horse has to live with that name. They're walking around with that name, and that's the introduction that they're getting. And so, therefore, could we turn that into a positive to realize there's no such thing as a bad horse in this world? There's only misunderstood and in pain horses. And so, therefore, when we have that paradigm, our world opens up and changes.
He's dangerous, or there is even systems like labeling horses. He's a red horse, he's a black horse, he's in some farms.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it's done, I say with the right vibration, because it wouldn't be uncommon for me to say it about a chestnut mare. And I could smile and go, good luck with that chestnut mare when you start her under saddle. And it's kind of fun, jokey, and true, which means chestnut mares are highly sensitive as a whole, and very expressive. And that is, if you will, predetermining, right? And yet, as coaches and trainers and instructors, there's a degree of responsibility with that we have. And this is the fine dance. I have a horse on the property. She's a chestnut paint and she's a Mustang, and she does not tolerate beginners. If you walk in the paddock and you're not sure what you're doing, she will pin her ears and you will see her tonsils. She will open that mouth up and she will threaten. And if you get intimidated, she'll get bigger. If you walk in and you are fully aligned and your mind is being controlled and you're kind, you go over and say, I see you, and we're going to do something fun today, and you stay in that energy field, she won't do it. So you look at that too to go, my responsibility, if you came on my farm, I'd have to say to you, Omar, just watch out for her. If you try and move her, she's going to kick you. If you linger, she might bite you. And there's responsibility. Now, you could also arguably say, well, you set her up for failure because you put that in the energy field. Yes. But what is responsibility, especially in the United States? If I don't, I'm remiss. If I do, I've set her up for failure. So there has to be a fine dance to say, expect that she could be a little grouchy and make sure you're aligned when you walk in. And it's not done as a dig or a horrible thing. It's for everybody's success. And I think that's where intention comes in, Omar. It's the intention of, I want you to be successful and not intimidated, and I want her to feel safe around you. And so there can be a certain briefing, right? And anyway, there for me is the balance to realize they're going to pick up on your thought. Whatever your thought is, they're going to pick up on that. And the thought will be the lead into the movement. Your body will reflect your thought.
That's a huge key what you're saying, because even if we are not hearing them back, like
Yes.
now they're starting to research about autistic children, and there is pre-review about telepathy in autism research that they published. So to be
Yes.
aware that the horses are listening to what we think, it's very important. Even if we're not going to be open up or in the level of silence, we need to hear them back.
Correct. And here's the cool thing. That's where we can give examples again. In any field, we can say, when you were riding in the arena, did you think about cantering and the horse cantered before you'd given the cue? Well, yes. And I told him he was naughty because I didn't tell him. You did tell him. Be responsible for your thoughts. And then we can teach people to say, what did you think before he did that? And then they realize, oh my gosh, I thought stop. Yeah. And he stopped. And we can teach them that the whisper, horse whispering, the whisper is in the horse's eye. For sure, it's in the horse's eye. And yet, that's one step before. The whisper is in your mind, in your intention. And so when we're responsible for that alignment, then we're not giving false information or giving what's the other word? False, or I know I've called it not aligned, confusing. We're not giving them confusing information to go, my mind's thinking one thing and my body's saying another. How confusing that can be. And the more empathetic you are, you're going to find people harder. Or so I do, to go, oh my gosh, your eyes are telling me one thing, your body language is telling me another, but your mouth, when you're speaking, is telling me a third thing. And now I'm totally confused. So if I'm in a very important meeting, I'm reading the whole body language. And I had to actually, I was at school for my son and had a very important meeting. And one of the teachers was playing with her hair and the computer in her hands and looked down and didn't do anything. And then out of her mouth came, I care for your son. And I said, well, that's hard to believe. You haven't looked up. You've played on your computer. You've touched your face and your hair. Your body language is saying otherwise. So it's those things. And she didn't like it. She got out from the meeting. She got up and she left, actually. And in comes the principal. And I said, I'm sorry. Her body language didn't correspond with what she was saying. And I said, I have a problem with that. And suddenly, of course, I'm going to be the problem mother. But it was that moment to go, this is out of alignment. And this out of alignment does not work for me anymore. And so this is what happened when you say, what do they teach us? It goes everywhere in our lives to say, I don't want to be around dishonest people. The frequency doesn't work for me. I don't want to be around people that abuse horses, that turn around and literally state to me, I punched him because he deserved it, or I punched him because he went to bite me, he was too close. I don't want to be around you. You don't need to do that. There's other ways. Be open to learn. And so there's a lot of pieces that happen when you seek true alignment, and that is your life's path to become the best version of yourself. Then you're not going to vibe with everybody.
Wow. I still have, I think, they will come more than one question, but I think one that I'm not going to give up on is you
Yes.
describe some personality types of horses. And I'm curious because I do feel there are differences between horses. And even those I learned few models, I didn't find any model that is truly represent a horse's personality. All the models
Repeat
that
that
I
bit
saw was too
for
much
me.
people related.
Tell me that again. You've seen personality differences, but you didn't see too much. Is that what you said?
I said I felt few differences in personality between horses, but up
Yep.
until now, all of the models that I was seeing about describing horses' personality or horses' uh, psychology in a way was too influenced by people thinking.
I gotcha. I got you. I love that piece. It's been a big part of seeing horses, and it's a big part of actually having saved my life is understanding a personality of a horse. And of course, the history is intertwined with that. As a horse whisperer, and it was more in the 90s and the 2000s that I had this, and I've had this touch wood today. But as a horse whisperer, it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to give me a horse at liberty, meaning they're free, for example, in a round pen or an arena. And I'd say, "Why did you choose this horse?" And they would say, "He's put 7 people in hospital." And you'd go, "Oh, okay. Got it. I'm the last chance. Got it." And they would do that regularly. It wasn't a one off, it's happened to me a lot. So therefore, reading reading the personality of the horse has helped me immensely to go, who are you and how can I adjust to you? That's a big piece. Now, another version of this would mean if all we do is see a horse and no personality, then we're not adjusting our methods. We're saying, here's a horse, they need to fit this round peg, I think it is, in the square hole. So it means come into my methods and you're all going to be the same. I'm going to create robots and standard horses. But no, there's no one human the same, and humans learn different ways and they have different personalities. And would we not want to keep the personality? We don't. The world seems to like to have sheep and they want to indoctrinate them. And it doesn't matter who's listening and what their opinion is, there's a lot of indoctrinating going on, which is compliance and make them understand what life is about, right? And if anybody's different, they stand out and people don't tend to like that. Well, I'm the opposite. I want to encourage you to be who you are. So what we have is we have you and we mold you into the best version. So we add to who you are and we don't make you into a robot. And that same applies with the horses. We have to recognize their personalities. And I'll give you a couple so that you have some examples. There will be the horse that's, I'm going to say clown or court jester, the one with a wicked sense of humor. His sense of humor doesn't have to be like yours. It could be naughty, like standing on your foot and pushing you down. It could be anything of funny humor. But it's horse humor, it's not human humor. So it might be that thing he finds it funny to push you over when you're mucking out to the stall. He's happy and he likes that. That personality we would mold to go, wow, you're very tactile, you pick things up, you do these things naughty. Let's shape you into what you can be without taking your personality away. There's a very clear one for you. Then there's the nurturing personality. People will love that. They love nurturing horses, nurturing dogs. Any horse that's the one that says, I want to nuzzle with you, I want to stand with you, I want to hug you, I want to be kind to you, I want to heal you. There's the nurturer. It's part of the personality. They were born that way to nurture. That's 2 personalities. Well, we could call one a gypsy. It's like they're fickle, that they'll move from herd to herd to herd, but they'll also move to human. And you go, oh, the special. Oh, you've moved. Oh, here's the special. And they're fickle. They love to move along. They're not attached. And that could be a personality type to go, you're not attached, you move on. We can keep going. I love the policeman. And I've watched that in many herds where he will break up the juveniles, go in between, or doesn't like the challenge and the unrest and has to quieten it down. Policeman. Now, it's more of a role. I'm doing way more than I said I would, but it's more of a role to say lead mare, dominant mare, lead stallion. They're really roles, they're not personalities. But we could continue to say, is there the role stroke personality of the one that likes babies? They like to raise babies. They like to be motherly, a little bit different than nurturing. They like to be motherly. Oh, and then I haven't given this one a name, but then there's the one of the personality that likes to poke you. Oh, I have given them a name. I call them chess players. So you'll do thing and they'll do something. You'll do something, they'll do. And they're always looking for your weaknesses. So they poke you to go, what are you going to do if I do that? I'm ahead of you here. It's a chess player. And I find that quite a strong personality. Now, suddenly we realize, wow, we've got to keep that chess player occupied. We've got to be either with them or a step ahead of them because they're going to get into trouble. And they are not for beginners. That personality is not for a beginner. So we identify the personality. There would be the workhorse, right? The one that you point and he's going to do exactly what you say and he's going to try really hard and his standards are high and he gets upset if he gets it wrong. You've got the workhorse personality. And if we could keep that alive within them, it'd be awesome. And furthermore, Omar, how great if somebody said, oh, I'd like a nurturer. Well, we'd put that into the breed and the age then, wouldn't we? We would turn around and go, well, that chestnut mare at 12, there's your practical piece, and she's a bloody nurturer. So we've got the whole package. It's not just about the breed and the age, it's about the personality.
And we can adjust ourselves to that or to use it. You said, for example, a chess player, it sounds like a really good therapy horse because with the right
Yep.
interpretation, he will trigger every button that is exist in a way.
And there we go. And that makes you a good coach then, because there would be a lot of individuals that wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want the smart horse. They wouldn't. They'd want the peacemaker, right? To go, oh, I can put him in and they're going to make the person feel good and they're the peacemaker. For me, I'm like you. No, I want the guy that's going to trigger. I want the one that's going to poke. And if I've got a CEO in there and the CEO goes, no, I don't have control issues. Oh my God, you're going to get the chess player. Let's have a look what's going on for you. You know, are you really that kind of guy that can go with the flow or are you a control freak? It becomes really interesting to match them. And that's the next part, right? You have to match appropriately. And then you've also got to be so open to go, I put the chess player in, bloody hell, he didn't play chess. He was just nurturing because he followed spirit's guidance. Because he knew with this person, I'm not meant to play chess. And that's where it becomes simply magical to go, I chose you, or spirit chose you, and then I'm totally open as to how this goes to see what the outcome will be. And that is the flow. And isn't that exciting and beautiful? And then they surprise you, and then you see the magic and the miracles because you're open like a child to see magic and miracles.
Wow.
Yeah, I did on my own wow there. I'm going, oh my gosh, there's the punctuation to go, are we here for that? Are we here to remember the magic and miracles after all the heartache and the pain and the sorrow and the tragedies? Are we here to keep a childlike view on life? Is it for the faith, the hope, the joy? Is that why we're here? Not just for our authentic self and discovery, but to remember the joy and the hope and the faith. Well, I think that's what horses are here to remind us of is that each person is on their own individual quest, and yet we're all returning to love. And that is our role, is to return to love.
They are leading us or teaching us to the journey to love. And I think the fact that you said faith in the end is kind
Yeah.
of closing up the circle in a way,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great thing because we all have our own path to the faith that we have. And it really covers everybody from spirituality to universe to God, the faith. And I think it is beautiful. And then it reminds us that there's so much more to life, right? We can be a horse trainer, or you realize there's so much more. And how do you integrate that in? And that becomes the journey kind of thing, to go, I've got to integrate my faith into life. Where does my faith belong? It's easy to have faith when everything's going peachy and nice. And that's the same with horse training, right? You can have faith when you know what you're doing, or you're breaking it down into individual sets and you've got your systems. But do you have faith to truly know that you're doing the right thing and you're in the flow? And when you're coaching, you have the faith that Spirit's going to speak. That's what makes people stand apart from good coaches to great coaches.
Curious, what are the words that the horses will choose for a horse face fair, or like, because it's not a horse trainer and it's not even a communicator back and forth. It's kind of a different role what you're, and I feel it a
Yeah.
little bit similar in my work, but I can see it on other people work. Like there is a, and it's not even facilitators, because facilitators, you are no, something needs to be, I think the language will not give us help while we're trying to describe what is it that profession or doing or way or ways even. Like super,
All of that, right?
super, super thank you for a lot of, most of all, inspiration, second of all, like wisdom and tools that people can take and
Yeah.
be more in tune with the horses.
Yeah. Yeah. And as they're more in tune with the horses, they're seeing them and speaking with them, not at them, and then they're more in tune with themselves. And that's a beautiful piece to pass along, which yeah, which you're a part of, right? You're a part of that piece of the journey from discovering the true horseman and coach you need to be.
I hope. All I know that I'm gonna do my best on that regard, like,
And
and time will tell.
that's all you can do, is your best. Is your best. And you're on the journey because you're on the path less traveled. You're not in the mainstream. I heard once, and it's not original, but I heard it once, of you can be in the zoo or in the jungle, and I had to really think about it. And the zoo was representing individuals that are in mainstream jobs and getting paid and following how life should be and finding comfort in it. And then it would be the jungle where you're trailblazing and you don't know what you're entering and you don't know who's going to jump on you and who's going to save you and what you need to do to nurture yourself. And you go, oh my, I chose the jungle. I chose the jungle. Well, so did you. Oh my, you chose the jungle. And it's exciting and it can be daunting and it can be rewarding and so on and so forth. And here we are. We find ourselves in the jungle to give a voice to the voiceless.
Jungle partners.
Yeah, there you go. We're jungle partners. Yeah, very true. Oh. Well, I want to thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for being patient with me. I could easily talk more with you. You've got a very fascinating journey that you've held a little bit close to your chest, probably because you're interviewing versus speaking about yourself. And it's fascinating to hear where you're heading. So I applaud you for being that jungle partner.